Greetings, Internet. Greetings, everyone. And please welcome back my regular guest, Koki Pirate.
Howdy ho.
And you, James.
Hello there, this is James S. Property, James 1978.
And this week we are discussing The Moonbase, written by Kit Pedler, directed by Maurice Barry, who I think died within the last year or two. The TARDIS lands on the moon in 2070, and the Doctor and his companions Jamie, Polly and Ben venture out. The Moonbase is where a gravitron is used to control the Earth's weather. Some of the crew have been collapsing in comas with what appears to be a new virus, so the Doctor investigates. International Space Control responds to the crisis by quarantining the Moonbase. The station doctor, Evans, was the first one to get the disease, and in his final moments he talks with a mysterious silver hand. Another semi-complete serial. The Moonbase sees the second appearance of the Cybermen. A lot of people talk about how these Cybermen are creepy and sneaky, and this is aided by the eerie soundtrack. Seeing the second Doctor play detective is a joy, and the only minus is, well, what is it with Polly always making coffee? Is that her battle plan for whenever they encounter Cybermen? So, Koki Pirate, you've just seen the Moonbase for the first time ever. Your thoughts?
Well, it was, I was actually going to bring up, the soundtrack with the Cybermen. I thought it was really well done. And I mean, last time I saw the Cybermen, I think I also commented that the Cybermen seem to be a lot better at being scary. I mean, don't get me wrong, Who Cybermen are certainly intimidating, particularly because they tend to have much larger numbers. But I certainly like the eerie feeling that I got from the Cybermen this time around. Though I've got to say, I suspend my disbelief for a lot of things in Doctor Who. Something can move through time and space. Yeah, Marco Polo can speak English. But so many French people on that space station and not a single white flag. I just couldn't take it in. I can't believe it.
You cheese-eating surrender monkeys!
Oh my god. Right, that's the earliest we've had xenophobia on the show. It's like we didn't even make the 5-minute mark.
Of course I kid. I love you French viewers, both of you. But yeah, the mystery was interesting. The sugar seemed like such a weird explanation, but I liked how they tried to be really scientific about, how to take down the Cybermen. And actually, I feel like if anyone should be jiggling the jar, it should be at me today, whatchamacallit, because I'm just thinking, man, in Who, they just sonic screwdriver this, and it would have been lame. Here they're thinking about, nail polish remover and all that kind of stuff, and it just seems, it feels smarter. It feels like, I don't know, I just like this arc a lot. And this one, I'm comparing it particularly to New Who, and I can see a lot of stuff that this does well that New Who doesn't do as well.
Yeah, well, part of it comes from taking their time over it, and part of it, actually, you just reminded me, because I was a bit harsh on Polly just now for her, because she makes coffee multiple times in this one. It's like she's decided that that's what I like to do, but she does actually come up with the nail polish thing. So
yes,
yeah,
the
Polly
cocktail, as Ben calls it.
So yes, Polly did something in this serial.
Yes.
James, your thoughts on the Moonbase?
That point about Polly first coming up with the weapon that allows the Doctor and the Moonbase crew to save the day, versus the fact that Polly spends most of the time making coffee, genuinely sums up my intense love-hate relationship with this serial. Everything about it was so good, but you just had to suspect the Doctor and co of sabotage just because they turned up at an inconvenient time. It is the lamest, most pathetic attempt. It is the most pathetic means of trying to raise the tension. Oh my God, will they be kicked off the moon before they can solve the crisis? Will they be able to persuade them that no, they're not the saboteurs, they're not the cause of the problem, and will the people in the moon base allow them to save the day? It's true, going through the remainder of the serials on Wikipedia, it seemed like a lot more. It's not that much of a trope as I originally thought, but for the love of the great holy donkey, insane scientists and all bureaucrats and people who are obsessed with their project or the smooth running of their facility and assuming that the Doctor is the saboteur because he just happened to show up at the wrong place at the wrong time. We get it. You just, again, my main problem with the Moonbase, having seen all of classic Who 3 times now, is that yes, you've done this storyline. It's nowhere near as bad as it will be for me personally later with Fury from the Deep and The Wheel in Space, back to when we have the exact same trope back to back, literally. But in this case, this is really the low point of it. They could have just cut out the whole suspicion of sabotage storyline. Well, it's not even a storyline. It's just kind of thrown in for no particular reason. Oh, we've got an extra 5 minutes to kill, or was it 10 minutes?
I'll defend it in this instance because even in 2070, people aren't just going to casually pop to the moon for data.
This was the point I made when I talked about it on Wikipedia. Yes, it's not Wikipedia, Facebook. Yes, it's realistic, but realism doesn't necessarily make for good television. And as I say, I do admit that I'm judging it by the fact that, yes, I have seen all of the other serials which plough this into the sodding ground. But yes, what was the reason for it? And considering the fact that aside from the bit of suspiciousness, Hobson, the person in charge of the base, and the rest of the base personnel are very cooperative, even when they're suspicious of him. Okay, you've got 24 hours to find a cure, or you're off the moon. It couldn't have just been, oh, can you help us find a cure, please? And we've got 24 hours until the first patient dies. It would have worked just as well. But moving on from that, though, as I say, the fact that Polly was making coffee and this recurring cliche, which whilst based in realism, it is ploughed into the ground later. It was one of the best written, best structured Doctor Who serials I've ever seen. Bringing back the Cybermen in such a surreptitious way, laying the groundwork for the fact that in the future, up until New Who, when the Cybermen are always this vast army invading in droves, because their planet has been destroyed, they have to invade surreptitiously. They have to be sneaky and deceptive. In order to take control of Earth facilities in such a way as to try and achieve their ultimate agenda, for the most part not being seen. So this creepiness, this eeriness surrounding the Cybermen genuinely fits it. Even later in the Peter Davison era, when they have the booming Darth Vader type voices and they're doing their best to be oh so intimidating, they're still invading the Earth by stealth. And so again, it's the same kind of problem with the Daleks. You know, Reinterpreting it, yes, but okay, what are you going, after however many decades, what are you going to do with them now? Oh, of course, yes, I was talking about the Peter Davison era, I was talking about the Cybermen invading the Earth by stealth, so I have to say it. Rest in peace, Adric.
Spoiler!
Come on, it'll be... Koki can't possibly... No one who's watching this episode by episode will remember by the time we get to the Peter Davison era.
That is true. I think by this time next year, I think I estimated we'll be beginning the Tom Baker era.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But still, the hard science in this series, yes, controls a gravity device on the moon, which, remember, the moon itself is the cause of the tides. So by using gravity to control the tides, we control the weather. This is at least in theory possible, using different solvents like acetone, propanone, benzene to dissolve the plastic of the Cybermen's respiratory units. Again, absolutely top notch. Sorry.
This serial was exclusively written by Kit Pedler.
Indeed, that was something we mentioned at the beginning of the Patrick Troughton era. The fact that there would be so much more hard science. It would no longer be. You see, child. The star in this galaxy emits very specific radiation, which my ring reflects. You couldn't possibly have gotten that more wrong, Hartnell.
Yes, and we live in the solar system, and the rest of the universe is galaxies and things.
Exactly.
But written, it shows it's written by an actual science professor who had been the BBC scientific advisor on these shows. So
and as beyond simply being a hardcore nerd wank fest, it was a very well written story. First the setup, and then, as you say, the Doctor playing detective. What is this disease that is not a disease? Again, a spoiler alert, a trick that the Cybermen will use later in order to invade a Earth facility by stealth. But yes, the middle part of the serial, especially when Jamie, having been concussed, is talking about the McCrimmon Piper. He sees a vision. He can't know what a Cyberman is, so he assumes that it's an apparition come to take him to the afterlife. And the drops in air pressure, dun dun dun. And how come some people are getting this quote-unquote disease, not others? It's so masterfully done. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say. But anyway, yes, the fact that the story is structured into this, even though it's 4 episodes, it's divided into a 3-act structure. The first part, the introduction, setting the scene, setting the mood. We don't even know that it's the Cybermen. Then the whole mystery aspect, which is by far my favourite. And then the third part, the siege, when the cyber-controlled humans start trying to take over the base. The Cybermen themselves try to invade. The relief rocket from Earth is destroyed, etc., etc. It's just so wonderfully done. It's just a wonderful example of the fact that you can write a good story if you know what you're talking about. And I'll stop there before someone shakes the jar.
Yes, just as well.
Kill the moon.
Yeah.
No, sorry, James.
Okay. But wow, now I'm just thinking about that the gravitron like prodding the little creature inside or something. Wait, how can you make the moon decrease or increase in mass? I'm not going to think about this too much.
No. We're talking about Moonbase, not that.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist.
I did also address that in my review, so I think...
No, I'm talking about the gravitron itself is also a bit of a contrived device. Like, I can understand why it'd be useful, but where would the mass go? But go ahead.
Sorry. If you want to say something, go ahead. Because I was going to move us on to talking about characters specifically, but.
I was actually about to talk about a couple of characters.
In this case, this is a good. This is a good place. As I was going to say, in which case, this is a good place for Alex to start the new topic.
Yes.
Okay. Well. Yeah. I mean, I think the characterization in this was pretty pretty good, and we got more of Jamie. And yeah, they've kept him because one of the questions a while back from Koki was when we have period companions, do they really stay true to how somebody from their era would think? And yes, they did that with Jamie perfectly here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll meet the man in the moon. Forgive me for my absolutely terrible attempt at a Scottish accent there.
Oh, I love it when he says, "But the moon's up way in the sky."
Yeah.
The thought of it being a rock that you could go to wouldn't have occurred to somebody from his century.
Exactly. So far, they've only gone to one place on Earth. So, in the middle of the ocean, yes, okay, he could just about wrap his head round that. But going to the moon and discovering that it's not made of cheese. But actually, this is the point that I wanted to make before, which slipped my mind. The fact that although we see more of Jamie, his character develops, Polly does develop partially, and Ben gets to play the hero and be a sexist bastard. No, you stay here, Polly. This is men's work. Fuck you. But
Ben really aggravated me this episode, actually.
But the fact that Polly chases him down and no, I'm coming with you. But the fact that this will be a problem in the John Pertwee era specifically, that while the characters are very well written, there are too many of them. This was the same. It's exactly the same problem as the 10th Planet. The 10th Planet and the Moonbase are both following the same basic template. So the fact that you've got so many characters, as I say, very well done, but Jamie has to spend most of the time in the sick bay unconscious from a head injury. Polly has to spend most of her time making coffee. Half of the scientists are struck down with the cyber plague, for lack of a better term, not so that they can be controlled by the Cybermen. The Cybermen only really need one or two agents within the moon base, but to get them out of the way, basically. So again, when it's reduced down to the skeleton crew, that's when the characters really come into their own. But before that, there are just too many. So
a bit clustered character-wise. I can see that.
Yes, it was the same problem that Star Trek: The Next Generation had in the first series. Just way too many officers on the bridge, and trying to bring in a different chief engineer every bloody week. Every time they called down to engineering, somebody else was in charge. So kill off Tasha Yar and make Geordi chief engineer. Done, dusted.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So in this case, they because it was only one serial, they couldn't necessarily do that. That was actually a point though. they've driven off the Cybermen invasion, but more than half of the scientists on the Moonbase are still infected with the disease, if not actually under cyber control. But no, don't worry about them. We're just going to leave now. Declare victory and go home.
Yeah, that does happen with a few Doctor Who's, old and new, that things aren't actually all completely resolved. But
that's the thing, you can't stick around to resolve everything.
The Doctor maybe has some limit as to how much he interferes as well. He dealt with the major threat. He trusts the medicine of humans in 2070 that might be a bit more advanced than Joseph Lister. That's actually something that's been referred back to as well. I'm sorry, I'm going to mock that jar myself, but it was referred to in the last episode of Doctor Who, the studying under Joseph Lister, which always stuck in my mind because I was doing GCSE History of Medicine when I first saw the serial, or what there is of it at least. It's the only possibility that maybe there were things that doctors in 2070 know that Joseph Lister didn't know.
But that's the point, though. That is, the whole idea of him, quote-unquote, studying medicine in the 1880s under Dr. Joseph Lister. He's a Time Lord. Even if he is not a medical doctor of the Gallifreyan species, even if he is not qualified by standards, he knows enough about science, medicine, etc., to be able to completely blow whatever Dr. Lister would have taught him out of the water. He is so far beyond 2070 technology that it's not even funny. So, yes, he... Again, it's like just as any person now, going back, say, 5,000 years, would seem like just any random person with a basic knowledge of hygiene and first aid would seem like a god or a demon to the primitive people who don't know that, yes, if you wash your hands or clean this wound and keep it covered, then you won't die.
Well, yes.
So the whole Dr. Lister thing just it just never really washed well with me.
Well, I mean, he went to a dentist in the Wild West. That this whole thing just strikes me as rather odd. You know,
it just there is the TARDIS has that was another thing to mention, moving on from the characters. The fact that...
Hey.
Oh, sorry?
No, I hadn't said anything about the characters yet.
Excuse me? Yes, so I finished talking about the characters for now.
Can I before Koki talks about character, can I just interject and defend the show, saying the Doctor wouldn't have known human anatomy and human biology and what have you. So that's what I think he got from Joseph Lister.
Yes, again, it would just be that would be something that he would have learned, but still, viruses are viruses. Poison is poison, whatever particular mechanism the Cybermen used. But the fact that viruses weren't known in the 1880s wasn't a hindrance to him.
Okay. Well, I was going to say... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead, Cookie.
Okay. The Doctor being so improbably discreet, is this going to be sort of like a hallmark of this Doctor? It's like, oh yeah, no one's seeing me at all while I'm like unplugging this. In this case, he takes off a person's shoe. He is down there untying a person's shoe and takes it off without the person noticing. It's getting a little ridiculous. It happened in The Underwater Menace. Is this like gonna keep on upping the ante? Is he going to like make someone completely naked without them noticing? Or...
I think this is part of him being Chaplin-esque. It's meant to come off a little bit slapstick.
Oh.
Is it something that's overdone so much that it's annoying? Charlie Chaplin in space. I've never seen the whole Troughton era from start to finish, and there's
I don't remember. As someone who has seen the entire Troughton era twice, now watching it for the third time, just to clarify what I said earlier, I don't remember it becoming irritating. The slapstick kind of Chaplin-esque comedy, it sometimes it's inappropriate for the scene, for the moment. Like there's another serial later when the Doctor is actually running from gunfire, and the way he runs from diagonally one way to another as the shots land underneath him, and he jumps, grabbing hold of his buttocks, as if, I've been shot in the arse. Yeah, that is a deliberate comedy scene that is... it's a slapstick comedy scene which is completely inappropriate, but it never becomes so absurd, so overdone, so ridiculous throughout the series that you're just thinking, oh, for the love of God. No, as I said earlier, that's the, what are you doing here? You're the saboteurs, aren't you, trope. But, yes, moving on.
Well, yeah, so I thought that was interesting that they were bringing that aspect of the Doctor, to the next serial. But I guess it's only happened twice. It just happened twice in a row. But Ben really aggravated me this serial. And what was that whole clashing of Jamie bit that he's like, oh no, you need to rest, you're not well. It's like, I'll show you how well I am. It's reminiscent of when Ben was first introduced. And you have like these young people fighting over nothing. The idea is that they're young and their passions are running high and they're going to beat each other up. It just really annoyed me. And, had Jamie like, you guys not talked about how long Jamie would have been a companion, I'm just wondering if I were, like, watching this as it was coming on weekly when the Cybermen zapped Polly and zapped Jamie, if, the people at home are like, wait, did we just lose two companions?
Yeah.
That would have been a really...
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. It was such a big deal when the last companion died. So, just that being that quick would have just been a bit of a gut punch.
But we're not going to have Ben and Polly for much longer, precisely because of what I was talking about earlier, with the clutteredness of the cast, not only in this serial, but in many of the others, in pretty much all of the serials in the first Troughton series. Because, as I said before, Jamie spent most of his time in the sick bay. Polly spent most of her time making coffee. The companion's role is to be the audience's avatar, to ask the questions that the audience would ask. So if you have one, that's a comfortable, if somewhat lonely number, depending entirely on the emotional dynamic between the Doctor and the companion. If you have two companions, then you've got an emotional dynamic between them as well. The emotional dynamic between Ben and Polly. If you've got three, then Ian has to be given an excuse to go off and try and save Barbara every bloody serial. But, so yes, this is the last time that we'll have... this is the last time that we'll have three companions for a very long while. And even then, the fact that one of them is a third wheel, one of them is surplus to requirements, will be his main character arc. Him trying to prove that, no, I am not useless, no, I am not the third wheel, no, I am not just going to be told to sit in the corner and wait until the crisis is over. I'm going to take charge. Damn it! No spoilers. So yes, Jamie will come much more into his own later when this has left. But as you were saying before, Koki, about Jamie and Polly both being zapped, what, did we just lose two companions? The way that the writers were struggling to find roles for all three companions in every serial, and the Doctor, and the supporting cast. I wouldn't have blamed them if I was watching this for the first time myself in the 1960s, if the writers had just gone, yes, sod it, Polly and Ben both die, and and that's it.
I actually can't remember Ben and Polly leaving, but I have a...
yeah, it's only a few serials from now, and it's very rushed. It's not a long, tearful. Would it be okay if I spoil?
Well, if it's any consolation, Alex, I don't remember either.
I'd rather you didn't go into the plot too much, but which serial is it?
It's the Faceless Ones.
Of course, because that's the next one that actually goes back to contemporary Earth.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So literally, they've landed in... So the very end of the story... Wait a minute, what date is it? 22nd of July. And again, any Who nerds out there who remember the exact dates, leave it in the comments and prove me wrong. But anyway, so hang on a second. This is the day that my boat leaves. We're at Gatwick Airport. If we get a bus, we can just make it. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Literally, that is... aside from a quick thank you for everything, Doctor. Okay, take care of each other. Bye.
Their entering the TARDIS was rather rushed. Them leaving it should be just as...
just talking about entering the TARDIS, I wasn't on last week's podcast, so I just want to correct something. It wasn't that the Doctor kidnapped them. Ben had the key, and they went into the TARDIS of their own accord, not realizing that it was a time and space travel machine, and that it was just about to take off. But no, the Doctor didn't kidnap them. Just wanted to clarify that. But continue.
Yes, Ben made that mistake, didn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, isn't there some implication of romance between them by that point, which is a bit weird, because she's not going to go join the Navy and go on the boat with him, is she?
No. But again, that's
Is she?
what military wives do. They stay at home and wait for their true love to return.
Okay.
Oh, no, she's going to be standing there on the windswept cliff top, wearing the black velvet cloak with the hood, like something out of a Scottish Widow advert, longing for her sailor to return.
It does seem a bit odd that the Doctor almost suggests that they should be together, and they give this look, like, oh, that's a good idea, as if people would just... And then it comes from nowhere. It's like, where has it come across that there's like some kind of chemistry?
Oh, the fact that they're constantly bickering.
Oh, of course.
Bickering and hating each other is like saying, and I said the Daleks are gone forever. Or, yes, the Master is really dead this time.
Now I'm thinking about, like, the Daleks and the Doctor having a thing because they constantly fight. But never mind that. Huh?
That doesn't bear thinking about. Although, new series jar, but the Doctor and the Master have now kissed.
Yes.
No, I think, just to say, again, you can shake the Moffat rant jar at me if you want. That wasn't a kiss, that was assault.
The first one was, but he kisses her consensually later.
Excuse me.
But Well, I'm going to shake it twice. Once for you, once for me.
Okay.
So there you go.
If you're following at home, that's 4 Moffat Jar shapes in one podcast. This is the worst we've done, people. We've been doing so well. Maybe you're just a bit more quick on the trigger now, Alex, because the series is over.
Well, to be fair, the last story had Cybermen in it. Cybermen that actually looked more like these ones
and
as
it
well.
was on the moon as well. Come on, how could I not have compared the good, if theoretical and watered down science of this to that which shall not be named?
But anyway, well, Cybermen themselves are a good topic. Unless, Koki, were you about to say something?
Well, no, I was just going to say that I like how in this episode that they actually do say, we're only going to step out for a half an hour, and then they stay out for a lot longer than a half an hour.
Oh, yeah, it's the kiss of death. I do like the fact that they left them to genuinely, because they just wanted to explore the moon. It's realistic. You had the chance to put on a spacesuit and walk on the moon. I wish we could see episode 1 and how well they do weightlessness.
Oh,
I think
that was a point. The animated versions of the first and third episodes. Just want to say, beyond the fact that the animation of Jamie was okay, the animation of Patrick Troughton was passable, the animation of Polly and Ben, oh my god. But the fact that they put them in American NASA spacesuits from the moon landing, that kind of thing. No, if you watch the Telesnap reconstruction, the spacesuits that they actually wore on the set were completely different. Were very stylized.
Yes, the Doctor's own ones, which it makes sense you'd have them on the TARDIS, because why would you always land somewhere with an atmosphere? Or with air that you can breathe and what have you. But so you could say that Time Lord lungs are more versatile. But yes, they were interesting because they had goggles on underneath the actual helmet.
Actually, I'm not sure if you've seen too many of these low-budget movies, but I noticed that a lot of the ones that came out from around that era, they had goggles and called that a space mask. They don't even bother explaining why they can breathe, on Mars or whatever.
Is that where the Simpsons joke comes from?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess so. I mean, I've seen like some really
Space air is
low-end
rushing into the ship. But no, specifically referring to the Doctor's spacesuits in this serial, considering that the helmets were completely clear with no protective visors.
So you can see the actors' faces, but then you add the goggles. Yeah.
Yeah, the goggles, because, again, Kit Pedler would have known that, yes, if you're on the moon with no atmosphere and you just happen to glance at the sun, it blinds you.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. But yes, and I think the last thing where people complained about stuff like that, it was Guardians of the Galaxy, where the Star-Lord Quill is floating in space.
Oh, we've done an Ian now, haven't we?
I'm just going to say, because they still do it in movies. The movie that came out this year, he has a mask to help him breathe in space, and literally no other protection that we can see. And there's so much wrong with that. There's radiation. You're
gonna love this. You're gonna absolutely love this little quirk of Luxon physiology in Farscape, if that's the case.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because it's pretty much exactly the same thing. According to Farscape, Luxons can survive in a vacuum for up to half an hour, half an hour, as they call it. So they can survive in space. As you say, there's it's not just lack of oxygen. There's the radiation. There's the fact that your body is being ripped apart by the total absence of atmospheric pressure.
Oh yes, it would actually be dangerous to breathe in space without protection. And as you say, he should have had goggles as well. There's presumably a sun somewhere around. Well, maybe not necessarily. I don't know. But yes, and he survives. And he would, yeah. Okay.
Well, I was going to say that this set, well, it's not considerably more claustrophobic than any of the other sets they've been on. I guess that whole knowledge that outside it's space, outside there's empty nothing, that you can only go out in a spacesuit, it gives, I don't know, a sort of eerie feeling as well. And I actually have brought up the new series more than anyone this episode, but the jar has yet to shake for me. The Waters of Mars, I feel like it was a bit of a reminder. You know, there's the terror outside, which is like the barren wasteland, but there's also the terror within, which is like this pervasive disease.
So spam in a cam sci-fi horror like Alien, in space no one can hear you scream.
Yeah. I thought it was done well, the atmosphere. And it had good eerie music, too.
The music is superb. Actually, I think all the Cyberman music of the 60s is brilliant. You're going to love the next one as well. And the next Cyberman story is 100% complete.
Yep.
But we'll get to that when we get to it.
But, which leads us in a very good segue to what you wanted to talk about before, Alex. A whole set.
Cybermen, and these being very, very recognisable Cyberman design, which is interesting. And to clarify, Koki, it's a Moth Rant jar now, not a new series jar, to be clear.
Okay.
Specifically, anybody ranting about Moffat, or the Moffat era at least. The new series Cybermen, although they sort of do appear by stealth, or they have twice, in terms of when you bring them back to the show. But generally, they kind of announce their presence like they did in the 10th Planet. And the thing there is, people complain about new series Cybermen because they're so noisy. They always march in formation, and they always make this massive noise. So you never have the feeling that you get with this of, one of these Cybermen could be behind you and you wouldn't know, or they could be hiding somewhere. It's like they don't make any noise. It's like, it's talk about stealth. And design-wise, obviously, haven't got the teardrops yet. They were actually originally to add extra ventilation for the actors. I mean, the Cybermen in this era, they change every time we see them. And a lot of it's practicality. On the 10th Planet set, there's multiple photos of the Cybermen actors having to be helped up. It's so heavy, so cumbersome. But once you've got these kinds of design, ventilation's a problem. Talk about claustrophobic, and also think how hot these actors would have got. The teardrop thing that they have today and that it's introduced in the 60s is interesting because it's for ventilation, but people read into it artistically to be symbolic of the Cybermen might be baddies, they might be scary, but remember there's something tragic about being the kind of travesty that they are, that you imagine the human inside on some level being sad to be what it is. Obviously these days they have the inhibitor to switch off the emotions, which I don't think is really explained in Classic Who. But I love how these are, as much as I love 10th Planet Cybermen, these look and sound, you just go, oh, that's a Cyberman. Sorry?
No, in 10th Planet they did explain specifically that our brains are very much like yours, but we perform surgery on them to remove certain weaknesses. We believe you call them emotions.
Oh, okay, yes, I stand corrected. Yeah. And in this one, they don't really re-explain Cybermen, they just assume that you'll remember them. It's almost surprising that Polly recognises one of these Cybermen as a Cyberman. I suppose they are similar enough, but you might have seen
yes. The main difference is that the main difference in terms of recognition is that the original Cybermen in 10th Planet had a balaclava, really. This is an actual solid metal helmet, but the actual shape of the face, the shape of the overall outline is the same.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, and you wouldn't just assume it was some other robot-y thing. Mainly, I would say the horns.
Yeah.
Which are always a curious thing, because everything else about them is a cybernetic version of something human. I suppose the horns are the ears, I'm guessing. Or there's some kind of antenna. But But yeah, so I'll go around. Koki, you've seen two types of classic series Cyberman now. What are your thoughts on these ones?
No, I didn't even notice the difference in design. I thought they were cool. Like, I feel like, Classic Who did a good job of making Cybermen scary. The emotion thing, I was actually going to bring up, I found it interesting that they had that one person on the facility. I forgot his name, but he was sort of like the leader type character. Hobson. He was like, so you guys want revenge? The idea of like, there are a couple of different ways we can interpret this. This is him as a human projecting human emotion onto a non-human entity. Or perhaps, if we were going to assume he's right, then it's the idea that while they outwardly say they're rational, deep down they're just rationalizing very human emotions like wanting revenge.
That was a very good unanswered question because, yes, both are true. Especially, again, not spoiling too much, right into the Peter Davison era, they go out of their way to say how rational they are when it's obvious that they're seething with rage.
I know the line you mean. You must suffer for our past defeats.
Yeah. So, again, it's this kind of thing you see on the internet. No, we're being rational and logical, really.
Right. Which I think I like that sort of dynamic better than, I guess, the vibe I got from before, the idea that, these are scientific, calculating, rational people, and that's something to make you uneasy. In this case, it's going with the possible dynamic. It doesn't make it clear that these people, while they may outwardly seem to be rational, in reality they're just as hot-blooded as any human being. Or possibly making an equally sort of, I guess, valid observation that humans arrogantly... What?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, their retort to the accusation, just to clarify for anyone who hasn't seen the actual serial, and if you haven't, why are you watching this podcast? But, well, to see if you want to watch it, but good reason. But the retort to the accusation, you just want revenge, no, we are eliminating threats. So they see humans, they see the Earth as a threat. So that is why they're destroying it. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that so that even if they are only claiming that they are being rational, rationalizing their own emotions, there is in their own minds a rational reason for their action of destroying the world. Aside from nothing can stop in the world can stop me now.
Yeah.
You would call that paranoia because it's obvious. If they've been monitoring humans, they know that humans have just assumed that they're all dead. Yeah. But I suppose they're thinking that humans will expand into their space, something like that.
Well,
I suppose
they don't really remember. They don't really have any space. They have the few ships. This is something that is played up throughout, all the way through into the Peter Davison era, that they have no home planet. All they have are the ships that weren't on Mondas when it was blown up. So the second that they start rebuilding themselves, expanding their territory or claiming territory to begin with, will the humans realise that we are here and realise that what we are doing and destroy us before we can and destroy us anyway. So it is the ultimate preemptive action.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just find that exchange interesting because humans, I guess, in our arrogance, we're going to assume that other organisms are like us, feel the things that we feel, and we would project human emotions on them. And they gave an answer, and whether or not we think it's rational, I think, that how we see it is beyond the point. The point is that they, retort saying that they are being calculated, they are being cool, they are doing what they see as the most logical choice. Now, how sincere they were in that is up for question. As to whether or not it was a smart move, I guess, is another matter entirely. Theoretically, were it not for the Doctor, they would control the moon, and consequently all of Earth's weather. And, that was their one miscalculation. They could have very well have wiped out humanity there. So it should be noted that they would have had access to the entire solar system without threat. So it does seem like, a calculated, rational decision to, do what they're doing.
Yeah. And James, did you have anything you wanted to add regarding Cybermen?
Yes, quite a great deal, really, because the main thing that came through for me when Cookie was speaking was that the actual aesthetic, the design of the Cybermen suits, is largely irrelevant. Instead, it's the character. It's what they are portraying in each serial, in each era of Doctor Who. When we originally saw them in the 10th Planet, they were the personification of rational, logical, scientific thinking. No human emotions. The way that they spoke as well was very indicative of of this completely emotionless, not necessarily monotone, but making it clear that whether humans live or die is irrelevant. But this time, I just want to give a shout out to whoever it was at the BBC Radiophonics Workshop who did the voice. I can't believe no one has mentioned the voice of these.
I was coming to that. Yes, I think I have to look into that, because at one point they are actually using the voice boxes that you would have got at the time if you had no vocal cords.
Yes, that is specifically what it sounds like. So maybe not a shout out to the Radiophonic Workshop after all, but still, that this very quiet, barely human, inaudible, and incredibly creepy tone. They're attacking by stealth. They are purely malevolent, but they no longer have the power to just attack. They no longer have the power or the resources to just attack. So the voice of the Cybermen and the music both combine to create this wonderfully creepy image of the Cybermen, as opposed to, as Koki said, the very robotic for science attitude. And again, like Koki was saying last week when you were discussing the Underwater Menace with Ben, this kind of science phobia, this idea that the Cybermen in the 10th Planet, and I can't remember the name of the guy, nothing in the world can stop me now.
Oh, Zaroff.
Zaroffs. But they were both examples of science, uncontrolled, unregulated science going too far, and in the end, whilst the Cybermen have a rational reason, Zaros was just blowing up the world because he could. What greater scientific achievement could there be? So
I would argue blowing up the universe. But carry on.
Well, yes, the only trouble is, if you blow up the world or you blow up the universe, you can't go down in history for what you've done.
Exactly. But but still, this second generation of Cybermen, for lack of a better term, being not necessarily a deliberate counterpoint to that, but a new interpretation. This is something that Cocky and I were discussing before we started recording. Metroid Other M, I know, versus the Metroid Prime games. We were talking about all of the various reasons why it didn't work. The fact that Japanese language is different, the fact that Japanese culture is different. So the way that people behave signifies different things in Japanese culture as opposed to the English-speaking world. But basically what it came down to is there was the way that Samus Aran was before, and there was the way that she was portrayed in this game, and the two didn't mesh. So this whole argument really about which was the best type of Cybermen, for lack of a better term. Was it the original 10th Planet? Is it the new series? Is it the second generation? Is it the Peter Davison, we shall make him suffer, for he must suffer for our past defeats, Darth Vader type Cybermen? It's all really subjective because they're all different interpretations, as opposed to the Daleks, which are always fundamentally the same. We are superior, all other life is automatically inferior, only we have the right to exist in the universe, exterminate, exterminate, exterminate. These, because they are fundamentally human at their core, they can represent different things. In this case, the eerie alien threat. In the 10th Planet, the fear of pure rationality, pure logic. Whether the things like the first heart transplant, whether if we were to replace all of our failing biological parts with machines, we would still be human. You know, when your villains are or any character is fundamentally human, or at least human in some sense, then that gives you a wonderful canvas on which to explore great, in-depth philosophical issues.
Okay, I think it's time for high point, low point, and goodbye. And and I haven't even thought of my own. So let me see. What when I say my high? I suppose just the whole story, as James said, is very good. And low point is probably all the coffee making, even if Polly did actually also do something. And Koki, your high point, low point, and goodbye.
Oh, I'd say that my high point is probably that whole exchange between, the Cybermen and the leader, I forgot his name again, Hobson. That whole, you want revenge? It's like, no, we are eliminating the threats. Low point, Jamie and Ben just being antagonistic towards each other for no reason. Like, oh, I think that you need to rest more. I'll show you how well I am. Like, seriously? But yes. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, I forgot you were doing the goodbye as well. Carry on.
Okay, so may the hamster of peaceful space exploration be upon your heads.
Aha, and James, your high point, low point, and goodbye.
Yes, you've both already mentioned the two major low points, the constant coffee making, especially after the glimmer of hope in both the Highlanders and here. The fact that, yes, she was the person who came up with the weapon against the Cybermen. To just then reduce her to making coffee because, well, we've got too many companions and she's the girl, so she has to do something. And similarly, we've got too many companions, there are two guys, obviously they're going to fight for no reason. It was the 1960s, after all, the dim and distant past. However, I would actually say the low point was, since those have already been taken, I will say the low point for me, in the very final episode, they're all in the control room, the Cybermen have been locked out. No one's noticed that Evans, one of the first man to be infected, who is now under cyber control, is right there in the control room and is moving towards the graviton controls. And is going to fuck everything up royally. Polly is there serving coffee when the camera pans to him ever so slightly because Polly is standing right next to him. And he turns around to reveal that, yes, he has the black lines from the virus and the Cybermen control nodes on his head. Yes, I am the villain. Ha ha ha. Yeah, what, Polly's completely blind? No one in the control room is capable of looking in that direction at that moment. You know, the contrivance of the Cybermen landing on the moon and trying to take over the moon base at the exact same time that the TARDIS lands, I can forgive. The other contrivances, yeah, this one...
that contrivance is what Doctor Who is, James.
I know, that's why I can forgive it. I didn't think I had to state the obvious. Yeah, you just... What vital point in human history are we going to land in this week? But no, the other... there weren't actually... many other contrivances beyond that point, but no, when he turns around and the sinister Cybermen music makes it clear that, yes, he is the inside agent who is going to fuck things up royally. Okay, now you're just taking the piss. And may the great holy donkey bless your house for 7 generations.
Righty-ho then. Well, next week we have, sadly, a completely lost story, so it's all recon. And I've heard the soundtrack, but not recently. And it introduces a monster which actually... Actually, I'm going to name them because they're in the title.
That is actually something to point out, though. The fact that for the first time since the chase, the Doctor has used the time scanner, but not really. They do actually say at the end, oh, we'll use the time scanner. No, it's just the ordinary scanner in the TARDIS, probably because the BBC props department threw that piece of junk away.
The Doctor patched it through.
Oh, the Doctor patched it through. Yes, of course. It's not that we originally wrote the script so that the TARDIS crew would see a macroclaw and then realised, hang on a second, we don't do that anymore. The Macra are supposed to be underground. You know, in the old days when the Doctor when you saw something on the scanner, that was the cliffhanger for next week.
Calling it the time scanner is interesting, where the fact it shows the claw, it's showing their personal future.
Exactly. It just seems like one massive contrivance just to leave her in a cliffhanger.
Yes.
So, okay, we're going outside for only 30 minutes, so then Jamie just happens to bang his head. It's all... Yes, what reason will we come up with for the fact that we don't just go into the TARDIS and leg it this week?
It's Jamie who banged his head. Normally, it would be Susan twisting her ankle.
It's all the TARDIS being buried under rubble or trapped under. But no, the Doctor is more heroic now. Oh, why don't we just go back to the TARDIS, Doctor? We can't because there's something evil here.
Yeah.
There's a threat or there's a problem that needs to be solved. There's something evil.
And I will mention Macra because it's a very brief appearance in the New Who. But it was the episode Gridlock, by the way, Koki, the David Tennant episode Gridlock that actually had Macra in it. But they were kind of an additional monster rather than a main threat. Anyway, and I hope people listening are also able to remember that. And what was I saying? Yes, so next week we'll be discussing the reconstruction of all of the Macra Terror.